Hello and welcome. I'm Geeta Mohan. You're watching India Today Global. As death toll in Nepal rises from protests following the blockade of 26 social media platforms, Home Minister Ramesh Lekhak has officially resigned from his post, taking moral responsibility for the government's crackdown on today's protests. During a cabinet meeting, Lekhak submitted his resignation to Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli. The Oli-led government blocked 26 social media platforms including Facebook, WhatsApp, YouTube and X for failing to register with the Ministry of Communications. Security has been tightened around the offices of major political parties and top leaders in Nepal as protests continue to spread. Curfew has also been enforced around the headquarters of the ruling UML and Nepali Congress parties. Curfew has also been imposed in nearly half a dozen cities across Nepal, in addition to capital Kathmandu. Examinations scheduled across the country have now been rescheduled. Gen Z youth have come out into the streets against the social media ban and alleged corruption. Police have resorted to water cannons, batons and rubber bullets to control the crowd. Curfew has been imposed as crowd broke barricades and tried to enter the parliament building. The government says the ban on social media follows after these platforms failed to register with authorities. Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli has said he is not going to uplift or remove the ban that is in place, which clearly shows that this could be an agitation that will go on for a while. To speak more on this, I'm being joined by Namrata Sharma, senior journalist from Kathmandu. Namrata, thank you so much for joining me here. Now, we see this as a trigger point, social media ban, and we see Gen Z out in the crowd. But the real reason they're giving is corruption within the government. What's the catalyst over here? What's your reading on what's the reason behind all of this?
Thank you for having me here. It's actually a very, very sad day for us. And obviously, this will go as a very, very dark, black day in Nepal's history. Well, actually, I just want to correct you in saying, because the Gen Z group have been circulating a kind of a statement in X and other media, that this is not actually first and foremost against social media ban. It's actually first and foremost against it's an anti-corruption movement that Gen Z has been involved in since quite some time now. And they have come out openly today, as they were planning for almost a week ago. The ban on the social media has actually triggered their process, and the anger is there. But I just wanted to mention that, because there has been a statement being circulated by the Zenji group saying that the international media actually is not correctly reporting them. They want to
Okay.
be reported as going against corruption.
Okay, but
And of course, the ban
what
on
led to
social
this?
media has triggered it.
Right, Namrata, your reading on what led to the protest becoming or reaching this scale at this point in time. They were planning it for a while, but is there more than meets
Yes.
the eye in terms of not just corruption, but where is this coming from? Is there more than meets the eye?
Actually, it's in this protest that Genji has done, you have to look at the history of Nepal. Nepal's youth has always come out on the street protesting against corruption of any form. During the absolute monarchy days, and I remember my school doing my 10th exam, the first people's movement, not the first, one of the first big people's movement in 1980 happened. And it was actually led by the youth. Of course, at that point, the Gen so and so wouldn't be mentioned, whatever Gen it was. Now, in the digital media, Gen Z is popularly known, you know, trying to tell us which generation is hosting this. So the youth
Yes.
have been out in the street during the absolute monarchy. Youth has been out in the street to bring and restore democracy in Nepal in 1990. And
Yes.
in the mid of 2000 also, the youth have been out. But the
Well,
kind
Namrata,
of killing that has happened today has never happened in the history of Nepal. And
Okay,
now
then
to
which
answer
leads me
your
to the
question,
question,
what triggered,
yes.
sorry,
Go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, what triggered it at this moment is the sheer frustration, like that is now in the tips of the finger of this generation. They see what is happening all over the world. They also see what happened in Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. They saw the youth
Absolutely.
movement out there. And then here, they've been really frustrated asking simple things like, let us have good educational institution where we can study and we don't have to go abroad and serve the nation, you see. Then there have been
Right.
a series of big scale corruption. And to tell you the truth, in Nepal, frankly speaking, more than corruption, now things are moving towards kleptocracy. There's power concentrated on political parties and leaders who actually were on the street to throw
Which brings me
absolute
to a
monarchy out
question.
of the country.
Namrata, which brings me to the question. We see KP Oli digging in his heels. Will the Prime Minister resign? We see the Home Minister has resigned. Is this time
Yes.
that they're seeking change and change will happen? Very
See,
briefly.
looking at KP Oli's history, I don't think he's going to resign. But to tell you the truth, the kind of protest that has happened while he is the prime minister now, he should rethink this. Home Minister Lekhak just resigned. But at the same time, what I personally believe, and there has been voices coming out, is people just resigning is not enough. People need
That's
to be
right.
accountable for what has happened on the streets of Nepal, not only in the Kathmandu Valley, but all over the country. 19 deaths,
That's true.
more than 330, around 347, the latest data I got, uh, injured.
Injured.
And there are
That's right.
there are actually children, Genji people lying in hospitals without adults caring for them. There was, just before I got connected with you, there's been a circulation among our groups like, tomorrow can some of us actually go to the hospitals, to civil hospital, to start taking care of some of the kids lying there without adult caring, nobody to even give them water. So people need to
That's
be held
disturbing.
accountable for this.
People indeed need to be
I
held
also want
accountable,
to mention
Namrata.
one thing, not only the examples from other South Asian countries, but also the fact in Nepal, there have been, in the last election, as you have obviously observed, there have been
Right.
some youth, young generation independent candidates winning, becoming mayor of Kathmandu, you know,
And some being
and
jailed as well, Namrata.
so
But we
that has
really,
become a motivation. Sorry,
yes, and some being jailed as well. So we do
some
know
have
that there
been
have,
jailed.
yes, Namrata, we're
Yes.
completely out of time, but we'll continue this conversation as and when things unfold in Nepal. Thank you so much for joining us from Kathmandu for now.
Thank you for having me.
Now, as Trump administration readies to move secondary sanctions on Russia, BRICS nations held a virtual meet with External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar representing Prime Minister Modi in the summit-level meeting. India faces highest tariff rates of 50% along with Brazil. The U.S. has alleged India of purchasing Russian oil for its own interests and fueling the Russian war machine. Though India promotes that this is not an era of war and continues to engage in dialogue with the United States of America, Trump's top aide, specifically White House trade advisor Peter Navarro, has been in recent times making anti-India statements and alleging India of funding the Russia-Ukraine war. He's also called India a laundromat for the Kremlin and made caustic remarks against India. Now, in response, India has said trade barriers don't work, BRICS can lead by example. Listen in to Dr. Jaishankar.
The world requires constructive and cooperative approaches to promote trade that is sustainable. Increasing barriers and complicating transactions will not help. Neither would the linking of trade measures to non-trade matters. The BRICS itself can set an example by reviewing trade flows among its member states. The international trading system is based on the foundational principles of open, fair, transparent, non-discriminatory, inclusive, equitable, and a rules-based approach with special and differential treatment for developing countries. India strongly believes that this should be protected and nurtured.
And we're going to find out how good it is over the next week or two.
This is what Trump said when a reporter asked him if he plans to impose secondary sanctions on Russia following Beijing's show of strength during a parade when leaders of three countries, India, Russia and China, came together on one platform. After what seemed a successful summit in Alaska, Russia has launched a massive number of drones for the first time and hit the main building of Ukrainian government, killing 3 people, including an infant. Russia launched 805 drones and 13 missiles overnight into Ukraine. European leaders and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky have been urging the US to put secondary sanctions not only on Russia but also on countries which are trading energy and oil with Moscow.
Важливо, що сьогодні є.
Clearly, Russia is trying to inflict pain on Ukraine with even more brazen attacks. This is a clear sign that Putin is testing the world, whether they will accept or tolerate this. That is why it is important that the statements of leaders, states, and institutions be backed by strong actions. Sanctions against Russia, against individuals associated with Russia, tough tariffs, and other restrictions on trade with Russia.
Іншими обмеженнями на торгівлю з Росією.
As Russia maintains that it is ready for talks but continues to attack Ukraine, President Donald Trump says US is ready to move secondary sanctions against Russia. He has not elaborated on the sanctions but says he's going to speak to Putin soon.
Are you ready to move to the second phase of sanctions against Russia or punishing Putin?
When do you plan to speak to President Putin next? And what
Very soon, over the next couple of days. Look, we're going to get it done. The Russia-Ukraine situation, we're going to get it done. I have confidence we're going to get it done.
Trump's top aide Scott Bessent has reiterated secondary sanctions on Russia and says a joint US-European sanctions would collapse the Russian economy.
We're prepared to increase pressure on Russia, but we need our European partners to follow us, because if the US and the EU do this together, we are in a race now between how long can the Ukrainian military hold up versus how long can the Russian economy hold up. And if the US and the EU can come in, do more sanctions, secondary tariffs on the countries that buy Russian oil, the Russian economy will be in full collapse, and that will bring President Putin to the table.
India has been largely hit by the additional sanctions imposed on it for purchasing Russian oil. The additional tariffs imposed has taken the total tariff rate to 50%. Beijing, however, has not been charged for doing business with Moscow so far.
You know, I've been very disappointed that India would be buying so much oil, as you know, from Russia. And I let them know that. We put a very big tariff on India, 50% tariff, very high tariff. I get along very well with Modi, as you know. He's great. He was here a couple of months ago.
The Trump administration has previously hit out at India and alleged that India was benefiting from the Russian oil at the cost of Ukrainian lives.
They should let her go.
Top Trump aide Peter Navarro has called India Maharaja of tariffs and laundromats for Kremlin. But India has always maintained that this is not an era of war. It has also called the tariffs unjustified. Now, as and when the secondary sanctions kick in, what is to be seen is whether the Trump administration continues to bully India or takes on Russia directly. With Mahashweta Lala, Bureau Report, India Today.
Joining me from Washington, D.C. is Rohit Sharma. Rohit, thank you so much for joining me here. It just seems like the war is only getting more hot when it comes to India and U.S. Things are not really calming. It's not easing of tensions, and one statement does not make a difference.
Well, it did not. I don't think, and I think this has to be said for the record. I mean, every time
President Trump's talked about putting those additional tariffs. Even when he did that, he's always said that India has he has a great relationship with Prime Minister Modi. So it was kind of surprising to see that, everybody was just very excited a couple of days ago when, he said what he said. Even though, in fact, this morning, Peter Navarro, said a bunch of things. He insulted BRICS, he insulted India again, called India Maharaja of tariffs again. So I think a lot has to happen in a couple of days, Geeta. President Trump has also announced that there would be European leaders that would be visiting Washington, D.C. again in individual capacity. And I think once those meetings do take place is when we would know what course President Trump would take. But as our report was suggesting, that it looks like he's made up his mind. He's ready to put those secondary tariffs, but it will all depend on how his meetings with the European counterparts go in the next few days.
And how the delegation level talks go over here. There's a European Union delegation coming to India as well, Rohit. Keep tracking that story for us. We'll keep dipping into you every night around this time on what's happening in Trump's world. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now they're back. Elon Musk and Peter Navarro are at each other's throats again, this time over a fact-checking system on X. After the system termed Navarro's anti-India post on X as hypocritical, Navarro accused the X owner and Tesla CEO Elon Musk for allowing propaganda into people's posts. Musk defended the system by saying that the narrative is decided by the people. But the fight goes on. Current posts by Navarro clearly again is taking on Elon Musk.
It is Elon Musk versus Peter Navarro again. Former buddy of US President Donald Trump and Tesla CEO Elon Musk defended the fact-checking system owned by his social media platform X. After White House trade advisor Peter Navarro criticized the system for fact-checking his anti-India post. Musk, while defending his system, posted on X that the people decide the narrative. You hear all sides of an argument. Community Notes corrects everyone, no exceptions. Notes data and code is public source. Grok provides further fact-checking. Earlier, Navarro on X accused India of profiteering from the purchase of Russian oil and thereby feed the Russian war machine. The fact-checking machine, however, corrected Navarro and said India's purchase of Russian oil is for energy security and don't violate sanctions. The system also called Navarro's claim hypocritical as it imports certain goods from Russia.
It was a shame to see.
This was followed by another post by Navarro in which he slammed ex-owner Musk for allowing propaganda in People's Post. He in fact called the fact-check crap. Navarro has been attacking India and justifying the high tariff imposed on the country. His very recent comment on India's tariff that Brahmins profiting from Russian oil at the expense of Indians was strongly condemned and rejected by New Delhi. He also called Russia-Ukraine war as Modi's war. Navarro and Musk feud is not new. Earlier, Navarro called Musk a car assembler whose supply chains depended on China.
With Elon, it's fine. He's a car man. He's a car person. That's what he does.
Musk retaliated, calling Navarro dumber than a sack of bricks and truly a moron. With Mahashweta Lala, Bureau Report, India Today.
That's all in this edition of India Today Global. But before I go, here's my take on statecraft. The Caribbean is on fire. American warships are circling Venezuela. Why did these old friends turn foe? And what does this latest escalation in America's backyard mean? Watch the full episode of Statecraft on India Today Global's YouTube channel. Also, do subscribe to our channel. Here is the excerpt. Listen in. The Caribbean is on fire. American warships are circling Venezuela. Fighter jets are performing deadly maneuvers overhead. 11 people are dead after a U.S. strike in international waters. This isn't some distant war or another continent. This is happening right now, in America's own backyard, and the danger is real. It began with drugs, or at least that's what Washington claims. President Trump calls Venezuela a narco state, labeling its leader, Nicolas Maduro, a drug kingpin. But the response has gone far beyond law enforcement. This is military action. missiles, warplanes, Marines. Lives have been lost. Tensions have escalated, and the region that was once a quiet neighbor is now a potential battlefield. How did a dispute over drug trafficking spiral into a potential military showdown? In a region so close to home, can diplomacy survive? And can President Trump, who claims to be the world's greatest peacemaker, actually bring stability to America's backyard? Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan. The Trump administration says Venezuela is flooding America with narcotics. They blame President Nicolas Maduro. They call him a drug kingpin. Last week, the US military did something unprecedented. They blew up a boat in international waters. 11 people died instantly. Trump claimed the vessel belonged to Tren de Aragua. That's a Venezuelan gang, one he's now labeled a terrorist organization. But here's the twist. This wasn't a Coast Guard operation. This was military action. Warplanes, missiles, death. That changes everything. Venezuela responded with fury. They sent F-16 fighter jets to buzz American destroyers. Think about that for a moment. Venezuelan jets, made in America, now threatening American ships. Here's what makes this truly tragic. America and Venezuela were once best friends. Back in 1835, the US recognized Venezuelan independence. They signed trade deals. They became partners. And then, when oil was discovered, American companies flooded in. Venezuela became a crucial ally during the Cold War. Maduro is playing a different game. He's embracing Chinese technology. Last week, he displayed a Huawei phone, a gift from Xi Jinping. He claimed American spies can't hack it. But symbolism matters. Maduro is choosing sides. Chinese phones over American ones. The cyber war never ended. It just moved to Latin America. This crisis serves both leaders perfectly. Trump promised to use military force against cartels. He's delivering. Venezuelan Americans in Florida are watching. Other Latin American leaders are watching. If Trump can bomb boats in international waters, where does it end? Regional support is crucial. Without it, America fights alone. The court ruling creates a massive problem for Trump. If he can't legally deport Venezuelans, his entire policy crumbles. Will the Americas remain united under US leadership or fragment into competing spheres of influence? This crisis began with drugs. It could end with something far worse. The Caribbean is burning. The question is whether anyone can put out the fire before it spreads, before it's too late. This is one of the most dangerous confrontations in America's backyard since the Cuban Missile Crisis. The difference? This time, there's no clear path to resolution. The Caribbean is on fire, and everyone's playing with matches. Thank you for watching Statecraft.